Hey, everybody. It's Tech Tuesday. I'm Rita Thomas, your funnel godmother, and I have my regular guest here today with us. We're talking about email deliverability again. So, back in the fall, we started telling you pay attention, it's going to get serious. You have to authenticate your domain in order to comply with Google and Yahoo's new anti spam crackdown. They put in new regulations on February 1st. So a lot of you jumped right on board. You got it all done. You hired an expert to make sure that every I was dotted and every T was crossed. Many of you did it yourself or said that doesn't apply to me. And so we've got a whole mixed bag of people in our audience today that are in varying degrees of compliance with these rules. And remember, they already went into effect a month ago. So what we're seeing today is waves and waves of what's going to happen and effects that are going to be hitting us, the business owners, the email marketers. And so we just want to keep you up to date on what the newest developments are and help you figure out how you're going to avoid any dire circumstances. So my guest today, of course, is Scott Hartley. He is the author of the book Hit the Inbox, and this is exactly what he does. He is an expert in email deliverability. That's a hard word to say.
It is.
Email deliverability, especially when you get excited. I'm like kind of worked up because some new stuff has happened today. So now I'm all getting all conflimed. So Scott, tell us what's happening now, what we're seeing, the new developments.
Yeah. So Rita, appreciate the opportunity to share this with your audience. Really appreciate you getting the word out like you've been screaming from the rooftops since November about all this, because we want to make sure that all the business owners are aware, because email marketing is such an important part to everybody's business. We all send emails, whether it's one-to-one emails or mass emails to our list, whatever that is. I don't know how we would do business without email, to be honest with you, right? But the Google and Yahoo mandates that went into effect on February the 1st, they're starting to ramp up enforcement of those rules. So February 1st was the date that they said you need to be compliant by this date. Unfortunately, they gave us a little bit of a grace period, so that they could, they knew that not everybody was going to be ready. They knew that not everybody was going to follow the rules. So they're giving people a grace period. But starting April the 1st, and it's ironic that it's April Fool's Day, but it's no joke, okay? It's no joke, but starting April the 1st, Google and Yahoo are going to start heavily enforcing that you must have full authentication in place for every platform from which you send emails. If you do not, 1 out of every 4 of your emails will just vanish into thin air, just like you never sent it. It won't land in the junk folder. It won't land in the spam folder. It's not even going to hit the inbox. It's just going to get completely rejected. It'll knock at the door and say, hey, let me in. I want to get delivered to the inbox. And they're going to say, nope. That bouncer is going to say, you aren't on the list. And that email is going to be completely rejected. 1 out of every 4. And that's going to start on April the 1st. And then they're going to slowly ramp that up over April and May until every single email will be rejected for platforms that you do not have authenticated to be able to send email from your domain. And unfortunately, I'm still finding hundreds of businesses that haven't become compliant.
Okay, so we just laid a whole lot of heavy stuff out. So let's just break it down a little bit. So when you say fully compliant, we mean, what are those things that we mean in that?
We mean that for every platform that you send emails from, first off, Okay. So think of every software that you send emails from your domain. So that's probably going to be your regular one-to-one email. So that's
Okay.
like Google Workspace or Office 365. Okay. So you send me an email. If I send an email to Rita,
Well, like for
that
example, we just sent each other emails talking about let's jump on and go live.
exactly. So that Google Workspace needs to be authenticated.
Okay.
Another is going to be your CRM. So
Okay.
whether you use Keep or MailChimp or ActiveCampaign, Go High Level, anything that you're sending out mass emails from, that needs to be fully authenticated. Now, some of you may use other platforms like Kajabi, where you're hosting your courses or trainings. Maybe you have a membership site.
Yeah.
Maybe you have other,
Mhm.
types of platforms like that.
Or you could have a Shopify.
You can have a Shopify account, so e-commerce
Mhm.
software. Maybe you have a help desk software, so maybe you use like Zendesk or something like that. You're
Mhm.
sending out emails from your domain. Any of those
And
platforms.
calendar, account like Calendly or Acuity or something like
Yeah.
that as well.
If you're sending from your own domain from those platforms, then yes, those all need to be authenticated. And if they're not, I just want to remind you, starting April the 1st, 1 out of every 4 of the emails sent from those platforms will not get delivered. So let's take, for example, let's say Shopify, for example, that you don't have your Shopify authenticated. Well, for every 4 orders that get placed, one of your customers will not get their receipt. They won't get their order confirmation email.
Right.
How's that going to look on your business, right? So that's the first step. Every platform from which you send emails from your domain. Now, the second piece of it is it needs to be fully authenticated. What does that mean? Well, there's 3 records that you need to have properly configured for each of those platforms. So there's a DKIM record, which is kind of like your driver's license. Then you have an SPF record, which is like your insurance. And then you have a DMARC record, which is kind of like your registration. So you've got to have all 3 of those records present on your domain and properly configured for each of the platforms from which you send emails. Those are the 2 things that Google and Yahoo are looking for. And if you don't have those in place, they're going to start saying, nope, we're not accepting your emails.
I'm just taking some notes I'm putting some comments in for everybody on what you're saying.
Sure.
So go
Yeah.
give me those 3 again. The full authentication includes SPF,
DKIM, SPF, and DMARC.
Now, let's think about this. A lot of people listening, they're in one of maybe 3 camps. This doesn't apply to me because ABC. This applies to me and I took care of it myself,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm good. Or this applies to me and I worked with an expert and I think I'm good. I should be good.
Right.
So, how will someone know, first of all, if they are facing this kind of dire consequence? So, which one of those camps, or how many of those camps might be someone who's should be a little worried about April 1st coming up?
Yeah. So great question. So if you did it yourself, that's probably, I mean, unless this is something that you do every day, if this is something that you've studied and that you know how to do, if you've done it yourself, chances are you're probably at risk. There's something that's not set up correctly, okay, or something that got overlooked. All right. It's never worth having a double check done, right? Maybe you're perfect. Maybe you've got everything in place. It's good to have that confidence and having a set of expert eyes on that. Secondly, if you just simply followed the instructions that your email marketing software gave you and said, do these things, and you went and did those things, chances are that those were probably incomplete instructions. So I'm going to throw a couple of email marketing platforms under the bus here, okay? Because I know for a fact how they communicated. So Keep, ActiveCampaign, and MailChimp, all three of them sent out instructions to all of their users and said, here's what you need to do to become compliant with Google and Yahoo's new mandates. Now, unfortunately, there are two flaws, two omissions in the instructions that they gave you. Number one is that they only focused on what you needed to do for their particular platform. So Keep, an ActiveCampaign, said this is what you need to do so that you're compliant to send emails from our platform. Why? Well, they don't want you to cancel, because if your emails don't get delivered from their software, you're probably going to cancel your subscription. So
secondly, if you are the bad apple, then you're affecting everyone else that uses that platform.
exactly, you're affecting everybody else. So they gave you instructions that just pertain to that platform. So they didn't tell you what you need to do for your Google Workspace or your Office 365 or your Shopify or your Kajabi. They didn't tell you what you needed to do for that software. Okay. So you may be missing some pieces. Just because you followed one set of instructions doesn't mean that you're good to go with everything. The second omission that all of those platforms made in their communications is that they told you, hey, you just need to set up this really basic DMARC record. Well, the sad fact is that technically that does make you compliant with at least Google. I'm going to counter that you're not compliant with Yahoo, because Yahoo strongly encourages, and I interpret that to mean we're going to require it, but we're not going to really tell you that we're requiring it, that you need to have reporting enabled on your DMARC record. Now, why is that important? Well, having the DMARC reporting lets you know if your domain is being used by somebody else to send emails out to recipients that you probably have no idea about. So I've had 3 clients within the last month and a half that have enrolled in my Hit the Inbox service. So I set up all of their authentication for them, and we set up the DMARC reporting. Of all of my clients that I have in that program, I discovered within the last couple of weeks, 3 of them unknowingly have hackers and spammers from Russia, from China, from other countries sending out emails from their domain, and they had no idea. Including one of my clients, they have a domain that's just used as a redirect to their website. They don't send emails out from that domain at all. But yet, when I looked at their DMARC report this month, guess what? Emails were going out, and they were going out from a .ru, a Russia domain. Had I not been monitoring their DMARC reports in a month, 3 months, 6 months from now, they could be facing dire consequences and never be able to use that domain again. It could have very adverse consequences on getting their emails delivered. So those instructions that Keep and MailChimp and ActiveCampaign and other platforms said, oh, you just need this very simple DMARC record. They told you lock your front door, but they didn't tell you that your window next door to the door is wide open, just waiting for somebody to crawl through. So they've done you a disservice, and you've got a false sense of security. So that needs to be fixed. That hole needs to be plugged. That window needs to be shut. And most people have no idea about that. So it's not just making sure you got the authentication in place, but making sure that it's set up properly.
And it sounds like they did a bad thing, but they did these email provider or the CRM platforms.
Mm-hmm.
they can't not be responsible for your authentication, correct?
Yeah,
So they could not take on the role of being the one to teach you all of it and everything. They only could teach you what was a direct effect on their platform. So they weren't doing
exactly.
something wrong or horrible or mean. They were doing what they had to do to protect their own users and their own platform and you on their platform.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, all of this authentication stuff is very technical and there's a lot of nuances. Like there are no two people that are identical. And so there's no way that, a Keep, an Active Campaign, or a MailChimp with thousands of users can give comprehensive instructions that's going to fit everybody. And so they can only provide that limited guidance.
Yeah.
And then it's up to you to find an expert that can help you get that extra mile and make sure that you're fully, compliant with the rules and protecting yourself at the same time.
Yes. So we have three ways that you could be facing these dire consequences. One is if you did your domain authentication yourself and you're not an expert in that area. Two is you followed instructions from your CRM and or your web host
Hmm.
because it could be incomplete, likely incomplete. And
Yep.
three, you don't have reporting and monitoring properly set up on your DMARC.
Yeah.
So are there more?
So I mean, there's all kinds of scenarios that that we could definitely think of here, but those are kind of the top three that I
Well,
can
and
think of.
so what about the people that don't send 5,000 emails?
Oh yeah, that's great. I'm glad you mentioned that. So a lot of people are still under the misconception is like, oh, these rules don't apply to me because I don't send 5,000 emails a day. Everybody has gravitated towards that number, unfortunately, because that's what Google has published as what they consider what's known as a bulk sender. All right. But Yahoo does not tell us what their number is. Now, in all fairness, it's probably very similar to what Google considers a bulk sender, but they refuse to tell us. So they could consider somebody who sends 100 emails a day, a bulk sender, or maybe 500 emails a day. We don't know what that number is. So it's better to err on the side of caution than to be non-compliant and then get really penalized for not, having everything set up the way that it needs to be. And the thing is that it's not just X number of emails from one particular platform, it's X number of emails from your domain. And that
Well, I
includes
did
if
want
your
to
domain's
clarify
being
that.
spoofed, if somebody else is sending emails out that you don't know about and they're sending out 500 emails or 5,000 emails a day, guess what? That number's included in that as well.
And then they stink and they're stinking up your domain.
Exactly.
So, I did want to clarify that. And some people have said, misinterpreted this to say you have to send 5,000 emails every day. No,
No,
that's
no.
not what that means.
Yeah. If you just happen to do it one time, maybe you've got this big promotion that you're doing and you did, and maybe it's been 5 years ago and you sent 5,000 emails in one day, you're now forever considered a bulk sender. You can't get on the list and then off the list and on the list. No, once you're on the list, you're
Mhm.
on the list.
You're one of the A players now.
Exactly.
You're on the A list. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So I felt like we had five
We did,
criteria.
and I don't remember what the fifth one was. So maybe you've got the note there, but
Yeah. Well, and here's one more indicator that you could be in dire consequences if you even if you didn't if you did your own authentication or someone else did it and it was quick and easy.
yeah. Oh, I remember what the fifth one was. Is probably, and I know that you have some people, in your sphere especially, that they don't use a CRM. They don't use a Keep or a MailChimp or a Go High Level or anything. All they do is they send emails from their Google Workspace or their Outlook, their Office 365. A lot of people think, oh, I don't have to do anything with that. And that's erroneous thinking as well. every platform from which you send emails must be fully authenticated. So even if you don't do mass email, but you only send one-to-one. So if the only thing I did was communicate with people like Rita or James or Mark or somebody else, other people on my list, and I send one email at a time, and it's through my own domain, I still have to be compliant with these rules. Otherwise, if I don't, and let's say that I email Rita 4 times in a day, she's only going to get 3 of those emails starting April the 1st. And then she's going to get 2, and then she's going to get 1. And eventually she's not going to get any of them because my one-to-one, my Google Workspace isn't authenticated. So if you're like, oh, I don't do a lot of email marketing. Oh, I only send personal emails. You still got to be compliant.
Yeah. So let's qualify that too. Quantify that, qualify that. So they say to me, I'm not sending marketing emails. And you don't have to be trying to sell something.
No.
In the email. Literally, the emails that Scott and I just sent each other today. Hey, can you do 4:00? Hey, I can do 3:30. Look, this is what I wrote. Is this okay? Before we jumped on, those emails count as well.
Yeah, Google and Yahoo, they don't care what the content of the emails is. They don't care if you're trying to sell something or you're just saying, hey, how's your day going? An email is an email is an email, and it counts towards being compliant or being not compliant. So any email, whether it's a marketing email, a transactional email, a personal email, whatever that you send, maybe it's just a funny meme or a joke that you want to send to your friends, those emails all count, and they're going to be looked at. Are they being sent from a compliant, authenticated platform?
Okay. Have we given enough doom and gloom? Do we want to give them a solution?
We can definitely give them a solution. And I do want to say, I've had some clients that I've spoken with over the past few weeks, and some of them were compliant, fully compliant. They had everything in place. They had DMARC reporting set up, and it was being monitored. They made sure that all of their marketing platforms were, in good shape. And then they decided, you know what? I just don't see the benefit of having my DMARC constantly monitored and looked at. I'm getting these block lists alerts, and I'm being told, hey, my web server's on a block list, and this could affect how my emails get delivered or they don't get delivered. And they've decided that the minimal investment that they make for that isn't worth it. And so they're like, I'll just go back to having this minimal DMARC. I'm not going to worry about if somebody's sending emails from my domain and eventually it's going to prevent me from sending emails, or there's been a couple times already that my web server's been on a block list, and and then it's gotten off of the block list, and I just don't know that I really care.
Right. It's
the effects of that.
It's far enough outside of our purview and our ability maybe to process everything that's happening as a regular, Joe on the street business owner, that it could be that we just say, look, I'm done. I'm not going to deal with this anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like, man, that's going to come back and bite you. I mean, unfortunately, and I don't like spending any more on my business than I have to, but this is now Google and Yahoo have now implemented something that is going to require a new investment in our business. It needs to be added to our annual budget. It just simply does. But it's not something that's going to break the bank. It's just like the cost of having to have, electricity, having to have internet access, having to have business liability insurance.
Right.
All
having
of those little
to
things.
Pay for your domain every year, to pay for your internet access. Now you have to pay to protect your domain.
Yeah, you have to pay to protect your domain. It's the insurance policy. We hope we never have to use it, but we have to have it. Just like driving a vehicle. You may have the most perfect, pristine driving record. You've never had an accident, and you're careful every time that you go out. But you have to have insurance. Otherwise, if you don't, you're going to get in serious trouble with the law. That's just the way that the world works, right?
Right.
And this is the
I
new
like
thing
it.
that Google and Yahoo have forced on us.
Just the other day, I was talking to a colleague of mine, and she said it costs too much. And I said, "Looks okay. This is like driving without insurance. It's like
Yeah,
driving a car without insurance. You may not ever get caught, even though that's not a true analogy because you will get caught with this one.
right.
Uh,
Yeah,
you can go for a little while, uh, but it's irreversible. Is it true to say, I don't want to misspeak, is it true to say that it's irreversible, or what will happen? Let's tell everyone.
yeah.
Let's say, okay, you don't do the things, you don't comply, your emails start getting rejected, and you're in big trouble, and your domain stinks. What can
It
we do?
can be irreversible.
Okay.
There is what's called a point of no return, and catching things early, being proactive can prevent that. And what's the worst case scenario when you hit that point of no return? It's now almost impossible to find a domain name using the .com extension. So masterplanforsuccess.com, right? Like all the good .com domains have already been taken, or there's people squatting on them. So let's say that the domain that you have right now, it gets past the point of no return. It's burned. You can no longer send emails from it. Every email that you send from that domain lands straight into the junk or spam folder. And so now you have to find a brand new domain. So you hope that there's something out there. Now you have to change the address of your website. You have to change your business cards. You have to set up brand new email addresses. You have to change all of everybody who's got your email address now has to have your new email address, including not only just your clients, but your prospects, all of the businesses that you do business with, all the government entities. Just think of the hours and hours and hours of work that it
And you're
takes.
gonna pay someone to protect that domain.
And then at that point, now you got to make sure that you have that new domain protected as well. And it's all that's so completely void. And a lot of people say, "Oh, that'll never happen to me." I've already run across two people that's happened to.
Yeah, I've had a couple people say, "Well, I'm just a small fry." Like, they don't care about me.
Oh, yes, they do.
Mm.
Yeah,
You
they
know
they
what?
really do.
They don't care about you because it's a bot that's running on an algorithm,
Yeah,
and it's processing millions, billions of emails every day, and it does not care about you. It says, good guy, spammer, 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 good guy, spammer, spammer." That it doesn't care who you are.
yeah,
It's whether or not you're carrying the right credentials when your email arrives. And
yeah,
therefore, if you feel like, "Oh, I'm too small for them to worry about," you're right, they're not worried about you, but it's just simply, does it fit? Does it not fit? Period. It
yeah.
fits, okay, you can go in. Doesn't fit, you're a spammer.
Yep.
Period.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've shared in the first 28 minutes here, a lot of doom and gloom about this, of everything. It's like, oh my gosh, you're fear mongering, you're creating this big ruckus, about nothing. Our intention here today is not to, create a bunch of panic. It's our goal is like, just make sure that you're compliant so that you avoid the consequences. Rita's got a link. I don't know if you have it handy, but
Thank
where
you.
I can do a free authentication check for you. Are you compliant with your regular one-to-one email and your CRM platform? Are you compliant with everything that you need to have in place so that when April the 1st hits, that none of your emails will be rejected, but every single one of them will get delivered to the inbox. That's the first step to take. And then if you're not, then I'm going to tell you, here's how I can help you get compliant. And you really definitely need to do that before April the 1st, because otherwise 1 in every 4 emails won't be allowed through the door. So, but this is the way that you can do it, and there's no cost to that. I mean, just like like take advantage of it. I mean, even if you think everything's perfectly in place, even if you hired somebody to do this for you, it's never wrong to have a second set of eyes to just double check and make sure that everything is legitimate. Because I would rather err on the side of caution and double check and make sure. For all of my clients, I'm checking everything monthly for them because they get a monthly report, from me. So I'm looking at everything. And of course, I'm looking at a lot of things in between as well, but I'm double, triple checking for all of my clients. So it doesn't hurt. Rita just put in the link there, go request that, just to make sure that you're in good shape and have that confidence in knowing.
I had another good question for you.
Uh-huh.
And I started typing that, there we go. All right. So we have the free solution. This is just the first step. This free authentication check will tell you are good to go, green lights all the way, or you have red lights here and here. And that's all it's going to do.
Yeah.
So then Scott has solutions for you. That's what he does. So I really want to tell you where Scott is coming from. So he is, when you think about an IT expert, there are all kinds of IT experts. Some are very specifically software. Some are very specifically hardware. Some are huge servers and in corporate kind of setting. And some drill down into one very specific area of IT. And that's what Scott has. He's like a specialist doctor.
Yep.
Right? So there's general practitioner doctors, and then there's specialists. And could be an oncologist, specialist. But then Scott takes it even further and is not just an oncologist, but a very specific kind of strain of illness that he would treat. All right. And that's exactly what he does. He does email deliverability, and he's been doing this for years. And so if you ask him, how can you fix my Google My Business page? Probably not. Can you help?
I know somebody who can, but you don't want me doing that.
Scott does email deliverability. I'm going to say it right the first time, one of these times. But this is his specialty. And so he's not dabbling in it. And it's not one of the many things that he does. It's the only thing he does.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's important because, I mean, shoot, as many times as you and I have done live, how many times have things changed in the last 3 or 4 months, right? Email, the world of email is constantly evolving. There's new threats out there. There's new best practices. There's new rules that we have to abide by. All of these different things are constantly changing, and it's hard to stay on top of it. And so you need an expert that, is staying on top of those things. And that's what I do. And that's where I spend the bulk of my time, and just really trying to help people, get to the point. Because here's the thing, June the 1st, absolutely June the 1st, like all of these hundreds of businesses that I've been reaching out to, for actually thousands of businesses since November, all of them who still have done nothing or have only done just a little bit, they're going to suffer some dire consequences come June the 1st. And I hate that but unfortunately, it's human nature. A lot of times, and I'm the same way with certain things, is that we have to feel the pain before we are convinced to take action. And unfortunately, that's the case, and that's going to happen to a lot of business owners. And Rita and I, are here. We don't want to see that happen to you, because honestly, in the world of email marketing, being proactive is so much easier, better, whatever, word that you want to use, than being reactive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, is there anything else that we needed to say? So we've got this free solution for you. It is the first step So if you do have any red flags, then you'll need to buy some next step program in order to become compliant. You don't have to buy it from Scott. You can
Yep.
go to an expert though. I mean, I tell my clients, look, if your car is newer than say the 1970s and it starts acting up, making noises, not running right, are you going to open that hood and start just tinkering around with stuff yourself? No.
No.
No. And you're going to take it to an expert. And we don't have a choice with our cars anymore. We can't just work
No.
on them in the backyard anymore. And so we take them to an expert, and we don't have to like it, but we still have to do it.
Yep.
And that's how I feel about this. Scott does mine. Scott does my authentication and my reporting and monitoring. And so I trust him with my account.
Yeah, it's it is one of those things. There's a lot of things in business that we don't like, right?
Mhm.
That new business report that we have to file in the United States. We don't like having to do one more report. We're getting close to April the 15th. We don't like paying taxes,
Right.
but we have to do it. So this becoming compliant, it's not one of those things that we have to like, but if we want to continue to do email marketing, we just have to bite the bullet and do it. And even though I am a specialist in this area, I do have a small business owner's heart and mindset. So the services that, if you are not compliant and you choose to do business with me, the services that I offer, I set those up to where they don't break the bank, because I understand what it's like to be a small business owner with other expenses, with the need to make a profit, all of those other things that, every extra penny that you make shouldn't have to go to just becoming email compliant.
Amen. That's for sure.
That's right.
Well,
So
Scott, thank you for joining me today. I really
absolutely.
appreciate your perspective and the way you explain all these things. I took some notes in the comments, so
Yeah.
captured some of those things. And we will see you again when something else happens.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to share this with your audience. If any of you need anything, feel free to reach out. Happy to help.
All right, and put in the comments. What do you think about this whole thing? Do you think you're fully compliant? Do you have questions? Put your questions in there. We will answer them. So this is a pretty important thing. It's a big, big deal,
Yeah.
and we just want to help you with it. All right, take care, everybody.
All right. We'll see you.
Bye bye.